Chapter 4. And the voyage to the center of me began. I had always been the most fearful person that probably exists. I never wanted to be alone, even as an adult. All my life I was always with somebody, first in my parents' home, then in the dorms at school, then in my marriage. Eventually I ended up in jobs where I had to work at the computer a lot, and I had to work a lot. And my work hours extended pretty much throughout the whole day, night, weekends. It ended up being almost 24/7. So the time of the day came when everyone had to go to bed, and I did not want to stay all by myself in the dining room or in a bedroom that used to function as my office guest room. I remember me gathering my laptops, my little portable desk, and sticking all of that, plus me with a chair, inside the master bathroom. So I would stay close to my spouse, but not close enough as to have to turn on the lights in the bedroom. I remember me going through things like that all my life. And my close relatives and friends had to suffer the consequences of my behaviors, of my imbalance. Again, not really sure what name to give it. And it was something so constant in me that they and I were so used to it. And even though we knew it was not normal, we gave up after years and years of trying unsuccessfully to change me. And like this example I describe, the rest of the examples of my restless, unbalanced personality during the first 42 years of my life are just endless. And it doesn't truly make sense to spend any more time describing them here. I just wanted to somehow illustrate this, so it is easier to understand the significance that this drastic change had for me, to the point that I consider it also a miracle. Another one of the many, countless miracles that started to happen to me after that day in January of 2010x13. After what happened to me on that day, and after my first communication with that being that started 2 days later, I automatically had the urge, the impulse, to start waking up somewhere between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. every day, and quietly and in a very relaxed way, go outside the bedroom area, head to the kitchen, make coffee, or whatever was appealing to me that day, do a couple of stretching exercises while the coffee was done, and then head to my office guest room area, and there spend the next several hours all by myself, so relaxed, in such communication with me, in such depth of being. I am not sure how to explain it. I just know that it felt so wonderful, so natural, so nurturing, that I became more and more eager to do it every day. So good that even today, around 2.5 years after all this started to happen to me, I still eagerly do that every day of my life, even though many of my life circumstances have drastically changed since then. Every day, for at least the first year, I would meditate very deeply, something I had started on and off during the 8 years prior to 2013, and that I started doing very specifically and constantly during 2012, increasing the intensity in the last 2 months of that year. Before 2012, I did not really know what I was doing. I just had a sense that I had to do something, something to feel better. As I said, all my life I have tried not to be depressed, to increase my self-esteem, etc., etc. But that is another story. So a few months after all this started in 2010 I would meditate. Then I would start to either read things on the internet or listen to different people on YouTube or listen to different songs that would suddenly pop in my head and would make me reflect on certain things or bring me different memories of my life or make me reflect on different things from different times of my life. Many times I would communicate with that being about the different things that were triggered by my reflections. And the things that being said or didn't say would trigger something else in me, a deeper reflection, a deeper understanding, a letting go of something. Many, many things would start to quickly be built up in me. Thoughts, feelings, energy, many physical sensations, very uncomfortable, very strange, things I had never felt before, things that would trigger even more things in me. More reflections, more knowings, more understandings, more communications with this being, until everything came to a point where the only thing I could do was to write, and write, and write a letter. A letter that was written from the new standpoint that I had acquired after the deep, abrupt knowings that came to me in the first 2 weeks of this process going on with me. And the answer I received from this being when still in the middle of reading my letter, that response triggered something that had never ever happened to me in my whole entire existence. Feelings that had never happened to me and that I was always sure they could not exist. Not in the world I had perceived and lived in up to that point. But somehow I knew they did exist, and perhaps that was at the essence of all the contradictions and deep discordance I had experienced all my life. That being's response triggered all these energies to unleash within me. This response triggered a more intense and deeper than ever going within. The response of this being triggered something so unique and so intense. All of this happened in such a symphony-like fashion, like in a perfect sequence of events, in perfect timing. See? If this being had appeared in my life in this way, in any of the prior 42 years, right up to that day, in January of 2010X13, I would have quickly and skillfully blocked and eliminated its presence from my life completely. None of this that happened at the beginning of January and all the beautiful things, blessings, and miracles that happened after that, none of them would have taken place at all. So I am not sure if that wonderful, that out of this world experience that happened to me that day of January of 2010X, as I was driving to my mom's house, and the first two events that happened about this being, the second and fourth day after that, made me just flow with it and let things be, to see what this was all about, thinking I was receiving some signs and perhaps this being needed some type of help from me. And then that strong pull that was happening right from the beginning, And then all the amazing and beautiful synchronicities that started to take place. These beings' responses to me, my reactions, my going deeper, my total opening, my going even deeper within myself, all the feelings inside of me, my amazement, more feelings, feelings that were totally unknown to me, and that pull, that irresistible pull, this time it was absolutely irresistible. I was so paralyzed in amazement to see myself allowing me to follow all of this, to receive whatever was coming my way, puzzled by the way everything was happening, puzzled by what was happening, astonished by how fast and how deeply everything was taking place. So deeply that all of this was reaching the innermost core layer of my being, transforming me from my very core, from the very essence of who I truly was. This was the first time ever that I actually allowed myself to flow with life, without me rigidly controlling every bit of what was entering my life, like I had always done. Always rigidly micromanaging everything from a very negative, contradictory, and confused standpoint. Perhaps all the conditions around this being, so real, but at the same time almost like in the spiritual world, the specific circumstances that somehow linked us, all of this made me not to push it away from me from the very beginning. I was distracted thinking was all about something else. And when I realized what was truly happening inside of me related to this being, I had already gone too far and was in the middle of the strongest pull I have ever experienced in my whole life.